Hi, I hope you're doing well today. If you don't know me, my name is Jordan, and I'm a freelance videographer. And today, I'm making the video that I wish existed when I was researching these things. So I would search the internet and learn from other people and what they were doing for their storage management solutions. And when I found someone that I thought was doing something really cool and smart, I wanted to sit them down and ask them exactly how they set up their process. So that's what I'm doing today. I'm going to talk you through exactly why I chose the things that I did for my business, and I'm going to walk you through exactly how I set it up to work well for me. So if that sounds interesting to you, then I'm glad you're here and I'm excited to walk through it with you. So after 4 years of freelance work, I've collected over 40 terabytes of footage. And truthfully, that's 40 terabytes that I do still want to keep for now, and I want to keep safe. And I've done the whole hard drive thing. I've gotten hard drive after hard drive after hard drive, and I've always run into the same issues. I'd finish my project and I'd back it up to one drive, and then back it up to the second one for redundancy. But oh no, my second drive is out of space. So I better keep that project on my computer or my working drive until I get another one of these drives to back it up. And I finally do, but then the organization's a mess, and I don't know which drive has which files when I go back to access them later. And I've done the big hard drive thing. I get this one, I get another one, and I back up my projects to 2 big hard drives. But you read all those reviews when you buy these drives, and there's so many of them that say my hard drive failed after 3 years, and if I don't get diligent and spin up these disks every year, once they're full, then who knows if they're going to exist 2 years from now, or 5 years from now, when they've been run and I forgot to spin up the disks each year. And just the stress of that, and the lack of organization that I had in all of this mess, finally convinced me to go over to a system like this, which is a NAS. Network Attached Storage. I'm going to explain to you why I think this is great and why it's been so beneficial for me. So, first of all, RAID. I don't know if you've heard that word before, but it means redundant array of independent or inexpensive disks. And that's heady language. It's okay if you don't understand that. What it means is, well, first look, there's 8 bays here. That means there's 8 hard drives that can fill this machine. Depending on the configuration you set up, you can run a RAID 5, and that means one of any of these disks can fail, and you will not lose any of your files. You're completely fine. That disk can totally go kaput, and you're okay. You don't lose any of your files. If you run a RAID 6, 2 of the disks in here can fail at the same time, and you're fine. You won't lose any of your files, which is an incredible peace of mind when you consider just the normal drives I was talking about. That disk fails, you lose it. There's nothing to do about it. Maybe send it away, maybe they can recover it. But in here, your disk can fail, doesn't matter. You hot swap it, all of your data is still safe because that RAID is writing, I don't know how the technicality works, but it's writing across all the drives. And so your actual files are safe, even if one of these disks or 2 of these disks, depending on the configuration you set up, fail. And that is a beautiful peace of mind. The other great thing about these is their storage capacity. So you do choose the size of drives that you put into these bays. And truthfully, my recommendation is go as high as you can because the investment up front is so worth it. I sometimes, this is just my opinion, think it's kind of silly when I see people with NAS setups and they put in like 6 terabyte drives only because you're really not maximizing the space you could get out of this. And then later, if you want to switch out drives, it's just much more complicated and sometimes not even possible. And so I think it is way more beneficial to just kind of eat the fact that you're putting money into this in the beginning, but your future self will be so thankful for that. So this particular unit does have a max capacity here of usable storage at 108 terabytes, but watch this. Let's say you fill up this entire monster of 108 terabytes. You just add an expansion unit on top of it. You've got 5 more bays, tons more storage, and you can expand this particular unit up to 2 more of these. That's crazy. That's a lot of storage, and that's a really incredible system. And another great thing about network attached storage is you can access it from anywhere in the world. So I'm on vacation working on a project and I'm like, ooh, I have that one file from that one project I want to include in this video. Just sign into my Synology account and I can download that file and now I have it. That's incredible. You can set up really powerful solutions for having editors in different locations, and truthfully there's so much you can do with network attached storage, way beyond even my ability to understand what you can do. There are people out here on YouTube such as Will from Space Rex who knows Synology and network attached systems and has that IT brain that just gets it. And I really recommend going to him for some of the nitty-gritty of what you can do on these machines. It's amazing. I just know what is useful for me within my career, and that is what I'm walking you through now. But the options are endless. So network attached storage is way beyond what a single hard drive is going to offer you. And I'm so glad I finally switched over to this solution for storage management. And I will admit, it is pricey, but I want you to think of it as an investment. This is truly an investment that's going to save you time. It's going to make your life better. And I really just encourage you to look at it in that way. You invest in big drives, you invest in a lot of storage, you invest in the systems themselves. And that investment will pay you dividends in so many different other areas. It's going to save you time, it's going to save you headaches, it's going to save your organization and peace of mind. And that is why I chose this, and that is why I'm just so happy about it. I want to share it with you. Alright, moving on. So here's the thing. I've owned a NAS for a few years. It's this one, not the one you've been seeing in the video. And I've already maxed this thing out. This has 60 terabytes in it, 5 bays of 12 terabyte drives, and I'm running a RAID 5, which means I have 48 usable terabytes. In the setup, I'm going to try to really explain that for you so you understand what that means. But the reason I'm showing you this is I did not use this NAS to its best capabilities. A lot of people are like, NASs are great because you can edit off of them. And I was like, what do you mean you can edit off of them? Mine seems really slow. And that's because I've been running it through Wi-Fi only. So my transfer speeds, truthfully, have been really slow. When I think about transferring a project, it would take me overnight to do it. And I just thought, there's no way I'm going to try to edit off of this. But that's because I was new and I didn't really know what I was doing. And so the new setup I'm going to walk you through is going to show you how you can make it a very powerful machine to actually edit off of. And why is that useful? Well, I actually edit a lot of projects that are beyond 2 terabytes throughout the editing process, right? And your fast SSDs that you can buy online, they're often 2 terabytes. Sure, you can get a 4 terabyte drives, but I've even worked on projects that are bigger than 4 terabytes too. And unless you have a big enough computer, it's hard to manage all of that space. A NAS solves that issue. If you have a huge project, you have so much space on your NAS, you can edit that project off of it. So I'm going to walk you through the setup so that you can do something like that and learn from me and start better than I did instead of having a NAS for a few years that was really slow. I'm going to show you how to start with a system that's already fast and super powerful. So let's do it. Okay, let's get started. But first I want to encourage you that it's okay if you feel like, wow, that's a lot of information. Wow, I don't really completely understand what she meant by that. These systems are complex. I'm going to do my absolute best to explain this in layman's terms to make it easy for you to understand. And I want to encourage you that if you don't really want to think about it, and you just want to do exactly what I do and trust me that this is a good setup, then that makes me happy. I'm hopeful that you could watch this, feel confident about exactly what you need to buy, exactly how to set it up, and to get you started, then that's what this video is for. But this video is also to help you understand if you decide on a different unit or a different system for yourself. In general, I think even watching my setup process will help you understand how these work and what you need to think about when you're thinking about purchasing a Synology specifically. And another thing I want to say, to give some credibility to why I think this is a really good setup. I mentioned Will from Space Rex here on YouTube. If you go watch his videos, you'll see how much he knows about network attached storage and just like the IT world in general. It's not all of us have brains that work that way. I don't. He does. And I even got on a consulting call with him, which is why I'm recommending him. And he recommended a lot of these things that I'm using for this setup because I wanted to make sure I was informed before I made this video based off of my limited knowledge. So me and him combined in a consulting call has helped make this what I really believe the best setup that you can have at this moment for filmmaking. So with that, let's get started. So the unit that I bought is the Synology DS, which stands for DiskStation 1821 Plus. It's got great storage capacity, it's got great performance, and in my opinion, it's a really great base to start with, especially in the filmmaking world where we collect a lot of terabytes of footage. This is an expansion unit, like I've talked about before, which means it has none of the computer brains that this one does inside of it, but it adds more storage onto this. I'm actually not even going to use this yet in this video, I don't need this much storage yet. I don't need to fill this up yet. Synology actually sent this over to me, which I'm really thankful for. I bought this with my own money. I bought the one downstairs with my own money. I bought all these drives with my own money. They just sent me the expansion unit. And I just love Synology. They're a great company, and so I'm more than happy to sing their praises. But I'm going to remove the expansion unit for this video because we're not going to be filling this. And you won't need to fill this either until you use up your 108 terabytes of storage within this thing. So when you purchase the Synology, you'll receive this unit in a box, plus the accessories it comes with. It comes with a quick installation guide. It comes with a power cord to plug it into the wall. And it comes with 2 different Ethernet cables, and we'll explain what you need these for. And then it comes with these keys, and these keys will unlock these bay units, so you'll see me do that. And it comes with screws to screw in your hard drives. So that's what comes in your Synology box, but I'm going to walk you through every purchase I made to set this particular system up, and then we'll start setting it up. So, on top of the purchase of the Synology, I bought 8 18 terabyte drives to put into the Synology. These in particular are the Seagate Exos drives. I will link every single product in the description and make it clear for you there. If you want to follow exactly what I do, then buy the same drives. These were recommended to me by Will, so I trust him. But, as always, feel free to do your own research if you want to look into other drives and see which ones are best. But I can tell you that these are reliable drives. They should stay safe and they should run just fine and work really well in a NAS. So like I said, I purchased all 8 of the drives that I would need for the system. Now I can tell you with Synology's, you don't have to fill up all of the bays at the beginning. You can add drives later. Just for me personally, I prefer to set it all up at the beginning. To me, it just makes it easier to do it at one time in one process, and then I don't have to think about how much space I have left to add into my Synology. I prefer to do it all at one time, but it is a super large investment. These drives are expensive, so if you don't have the means to do that right now, it's totally understandable. You do not have to buy all 8 drives at the beginning. But I will say, depending on the RAID configuration you set up, you do need a certain amount of drives in your system. Also, you don't have to buy 18 terabyte drives. You can buy smaller drives and save some money. But like I said, I just prefer to max out the system because it makes the most sense to me. I want to use as much space as possible because it makes sense to me to maximize my investment. So that is why I do that. Feel free to buy the size of drives that is appropriate for you. Now, each unit you buy from Synology does have a maximum capacity limit, so make sure you do your research on the particular unit you're going to buy if you choose to do a different one from mine. That will definitely determine the size of drives you buy for a different unit. Now, one more thing to consider when you're buying drives, and I'm going to just tell you straight up. Just buy the same size drive for all of your bays. It's going to make your life 10 times easier. Because the way RAID works is it uses the smallest capacity drive to run the RAID system. And so if you put in 5 18 terabyte drives and then you throw a 10 terabyte drive in there, the RAID's going to work off of that 10 terabyte drive, and you're going to have a ton of unused space. You're wasting your money. It's just not worth it. So even if you didn't fully understand what I meant by that RAID, there are videos you can go watch that can fully explain it better for you. What you need to hear from me is that it is going to make your life so much easier if all of your bays are filled with the same size drive. And I really encourage you to do that so you don't waste any money or waste any space using the RAID system within your Synology. Alright, Synology plus the drives you need to put into your Synology. That's technically all you need to run a network attached storage system. That's what I've been doing. You plug all of that into your Wi-Fi, you can run it through Wi-Fi, and you have a working system. Everything I'm going to show you from here on out is going to be what's going to help upgrade the system to be a really great machine to edit off of. So, first thing, NVMe M.2 SSD. What's that? Good question. I can't even tell you the in-depth explanation of what these do. What I do know is it's going to make the system work more efficiently. It helps with the cache in the storage pool, so just like your computer keeps a cache and that helps it run more efficiently, that's what this is doing for the system. This actually has 2 slots that you can put NVMe drives into. I'm just going to put one in. When I talked with Will, he said one's enough, you really don't need another one. So I saved money and I just bought one, and I'm going to install this just to help this system work more efficiently for editing and just holistically. So I'm pumped on that. Oh yeah, and one more thing I wanted to mention about this. Synology does sell their own NVMe drives, so if you prefer to stay within the system, feel free to do that. Will told me this one is fine, and I trust him like I said, so that's why I have this particular brand. Cool. The next thing is the 10 gigabit Ethernet adapter. I'm super excited about this. I told you Synology sent me that expansion unit. Well, they also sent me this, and I'm super thankful for that. I'm the one who actually reached out to them, telling them that I wanted to upgrade my system to be better for editing, and this is the key to that, so I'm super happy to have it. What this is it's going to replace one of your 1 gigabit Ethernet ports in the back and turn it into a 10 gigabit Ethernet port. Basically, what you need to know is it just makes it faster. So that's why this is really important, to be able to edit off of your NAS. And speaking of Ethernet, you need Ethernet cables to plug into those ports. So I have a variety of different sizes for my particular office setup and what I needed. That's why it's like so long. You might not need this at all. And I think by the end of this video, you'll know where you're plugging things in and what cables you will particularly need. The one thing I can recommend is getting Cat 6 cables. For now, that is what I was recommended by Will, also what I've learned by all of my research on the internet. If you're watching this 5 years from now, there are like higher Cat 7, Cat 8 cables or something like that that might be more reliable later. But right now, what I know that is reliable and that works well for this particular setup is Cat 6 cables, so I will link those below. And then you also need a switch to plug those cables into and distribute to your different computers. This one is a little bit overkill because every single port is 10 gigabits. That's because I wanted that. It is more expensive, but that means I can get that speed running out of every single port. If you don't need every machine to have that speed, then you don't necessarily need to get a switch with all 10 gigabit ports. But you definitely do need 10 gigabit ports if you want 10 gigabit connection into everywhere. So this is what that cable management will look like with your switch. You're going to plug one Ethernet cable from your Wi-Fi router into port number 1. Port number 2, you plug from the 10 gigabit connection in your NAS into port number 2, here. Port number 3, that one can go directly into your computer. So I have a Mac Mini with a 10 gigabit connection. I can plug an Ethernet cord directly from that Mac Mini into here, and that's going to give me the 10 gigabit connection to my NAS. And then I also bought this little adapter. This, though, is not 10 gigabits. This will take an Ethernet cable into this that will change into 2.5 gigabits, so that's less speed. But this helps me edit off of my laptop. I can get a 10 gigabit adapter that would go into my laptop. That's possible. They're just more expensive, and you don't always need 10 gigabit speeds. Sometimes 2.5 gigabits can be fast enough to do the editing I need off of the NAS. So, if I ever find myself running into problems where the speeds aren't fast enough, I can either buy a 10 gigabit adapter later down the road, or I can edit off of my Mac Mini, which will have that 10 gigabit connection. But I hope that all makes sense. You will have your switch. This particular switch gives you 10 gigabit speeds into everything you would plug in directly to it. This particular adapter turns that 10 gigabit connection into a 2.5 gigabit connection, which is fine for my laptop for now. That is why I have this. I will tell you, you do plug your switch into the wall as well. It does need power. But of course that plug is also in the box that the switch came in. Alright, that's it. Those are all the purchases you need to make to get the system to work. So now, let's actually put it together. Oh, but sorry, one more thing before we hop in. I remembered a tip I failed to mention that will really help you understand RAID. First, I want to tell you, if you choose to buy different size drives as I do, Synology's website has a really useful tool called the RAID calculator, and you can put in the size of drives you want for the amount of bays that your system has, and it will tell you what usable space you'll have for a RAID 5 configuration or a RAID 6 configuration. But to help you with the math of how that stuff is figured out right now, it's actually pretty simple, which is why I brought this unit, just to make the math simpler. This unit has 5 bays on it. Let's pretend we filled it with 10 terabyte drives. If you ran a RAID 5 configuration in here, which as I mentioned before, means that one of your drives can fail and your data will remain safe. If you have 5 10 terabyte drives in here, that is 50 terabytes total. If you run a RAID 5 which only allows one drive to fail, that means you'll have 40 terabytes of usable space in the system. Basically, you subtract the amount of one drive. So to give you another example with this unit, let's pretend, just to make the math easier, that I fill this with 10 terabyte drives instead. There's 8 bays, so that will be 80 total terabytes. If I run a RAID 5, which allows for one disk to fail, I'll have 70 usable terabytes in this unit. If I run a RAID 6, which allows 2 of the drives to fail, I will have 60 usable terabytes within this unit. So another thing to have knowledge of, if you run a RAID 5, you need at least 3 drives in your system. If you run a RAID 6, you need at least 4 drives in your system. There are videos out there that you can watch that will explain this more in depth. Again, it's okay if it doesn't totally click right now. This stuff is hard to understand, but I hope with the information I gave you, even if you don't understand why it works, at least you understand what you need. Okay, now let's go set it up. Alright, the first thing we're going to do is install the 10 gigabit Ethernet adapter. You will need a screwdriver for this. There are 6 screws along the edge right here, and that's what we're going to be removing. Screw number 1. And then once those 6 screws are out, you're going to remove this entire top casing right here. And there's one more screw that you want to remove right here on this little cover thing. And once you remove that, you're going to slide this up and then remove the cover right here. So this little black piece, yikes, I'm trying to do this without looking. Right here, I'm going to remove this little black cover. Then, you're going to open up your box, which I've already done. Take out the 10 gigabit connection, and this right here is where you're going to put that. So you're going to line this up right here, and pop it down into that area. Then, you can slide this cover back down again, and reinstall that screw that you removed. Now you have that 10 gigabit port right here installed. So you're going to put the cover back on, but as you can see by the mess of the table, I've kind of struggled to get this back on, so there's no shame if you struggle as well. These little knobs got to get locked in tight to make it nice and secure. Just take your time, be careful with it, and you'll get it back on. And once you got the top nice and secure on, then go ahead and screw all those 6 screws back in. Everything installation-wise should get easier from here. So next we're going to install the NVMe drive. So I got the package open, and now we're going to remove some of these bays because the axis is inside of the unit. So what you'll do is you just push, pop these out, push, pop it out. I'm not looking at what I'm doing, so push, pop it out. When you look right inside of here, you'll see where these get installed. Like I said, there's 2 slots and I'm only installing 1, but I'll get a closer up angle so you can see where I'm installing that. You'll see that there's only one way for it to fit in. So once you have it pushed down, all you're gonna do is push it back to pop it in just like that. Okay, now we're gonna install the drives. I put all the bays back in. You don't have to do that because we're gonna pop them right back out. But let's pop out this first one. So you just push and pop. And now this is actually really fun. There's a part on the side here that says pull. So that's what you're gonna do. You're gonna take this and you pull off that thing off of the side. Pull it off of the side. You take your drive, and the part where the hard drive is, you want to be facing in the back. So basically, the logo is facing away from the poppy part. Then, all you simply do is put these sides back on, just pop them in like that, and there it is. It's locked in. And now all you're gonna have to do is slide that back in. Bam, your drive is installed. Now if you remember, the box came with little keys, and if you want to make this super secure, then you just take the key and you lock it just like that. Now that drive cannot pop out. These ones can, this one can't because you locked it up. I'm going to load the rest of my drives in here, and then we'll move on to the next step. Alright, we're at the final stages of the physical setup. That's super exciting. I wanted to note one more thing about this box that came with the Synology. Remember these screws? Sorry I forgot to mention it earlier, but you don't actually need these. These are for if you had smaller drives that didn't fit within those bays, but it doesn't apply here, so it doesn't matter. Also, these Ethernet cables are Cat 5s. Remember I talked about Cat 6 cables, so we're just going to ignore these because they're not great. So all I need from the box is this power plug, and I'm going to plug my Synology into the wall. And honestly, for peace of mind, I like plugging things like this directly into the wall because I think it's safest. Or if you have one of those power supply backups, like so if the power goes out and it runs on battery, then I would plug into that type of unit. But for now, I'm just plugging directly to the wall. Great, so the next step is to get the Ethernet cables plugged into the right places. So again, this is my switch, and it needs to be plugged into the wall. This is not going to be my final setup in the office, but I'm going to show you as if it is. So, this switch is going to go over there on my desk, But for now, I'm going to show you how the things plug in. So like I said, I have these insanely long Ethernet cables. That's because of a plan that I have for my actual office that this is going to seem like overkill and ridiculous. So you're going to know what length Ethernet cables you need. This is 50 feet. It's ridiculous. But I'm going to use this as an example to show you what the first plugin will be. So this is actually my Wi-Fi. I just set up a Wi-Fi mesh system in my house, which makes me super happy. So I have a modem downstairs with one of these connected to it as a router, and then I have 2 more of these units around my house that helps spread the Wi-Fi around, but it's also going to make it easy for me to plug this in directly. Instead of having to put my NAS where my main Wi-Fi source is, I get to use this, and that's super exciting. I'll link these down below too. The brand is Eero, and I've really loved it so far. So our end goal is to connect our NAS to the Wi-Fi, but we're going to do that through the switch. So I'm going to plug an Ethernet cable to the back of this Wi-Fi. And then I'm going to plug that into the first port of the switch. That is step number 1. Now I'm going to take my other ridiculously long Ethernet cable, and I'm going to plug this into the back of my NAS and then into the second port here. Now, little important note. When you first set up your NAS, you have to put this into one of the 1 gigabit Ethernet ports. The ones that were already there, not the extra one we installed. That's just for setting it up. As soon as your NAS is set up, you're able to switch it over to that 10 gigabit port and get those speeds. But for setup, and so starting right now, I'm going to plug it into one of those native 1 gigabit Ethernet ports on the NAS. Just like that. Second one here. Now, what I would do is move my switch to the location that I want it, and then I'm going to plug in my switch's power. For the sake of time in this video, I trust that it makes sense to you that I would plug my switch into a wall and put it in a more ideal location than right here. But the final step for connecting to the switch would be to take one more Ethernet cable, plug it into another port, and then this one would go into the computer that you're going to use. So I could plug this into my Mac Mini, or if I want to use my laptop, if you remember this adapter I talked about, I would plug this into the adapter, and I would plug this cord into my laptop, and then I would get those 10 gigabit speeds connected to my NAS. So that's how all of the cable connections would work to make this setup work. So then the final step after you have all of your cables in the right places and everything plugged into the wall is you would turn on your NAS and set it up within the Synology software. And that's what I'm going to show you next. Alright, I got my cables all organized and everything plugged in, and we're ready to start up the NAS. That's super exciting. I'm going to walk you through my next steps of how I get it set up. But as you know, I'm a filmmaker who's been working with NASs for a few years, but I'm not a NAS expert, and that's okay. So in light of that, in the description of this video, you'll find resources to 2 other videos here on YouTube of guys who have put so much work into their videos to take you through a very in-depth explanation of how to set up a NAS. If you really want to wrap your head around why you're making the decisions you're making and how a Synology works, I encourage you go watch their videos and you'll get a lot of understanding as to how a NAS works and best security practices. So I just wanted to provide those resources for you, and I hope they stay up on YouTube for however long they need to. I'm still going to walk you through what you need to know to get it basically set up, but feel free to watch their videos and then come back to mine, and you'll have a much deeper understanding from their videos, and then you can see how I chose to set mine up for my business. Cool. Also, I just wanted to say, I know this video is already like 30 minutes long, so if you're still watching this, thanks for trusting me in the process of setting up your Synology. I feel really appreciated by that, and I thank you. Alright, let's start up our NAS. So you can hear it starting up, and in the meantime, we're going to go to find.synology.com. And once this thing is up, it's going to give us a loud beep, and then the Synology is going to be able to find the NAS on the network. There's the beep, and there it is. There's the DS1821 Plus. So we're going to press connect. We're going to agree to this and the privacy statement. And now we're going to set up the NAS. We're going to install the DiskStation Manager, and this is telling me that all of the data on these drives is going to be deleted. They're brand new drives, so that's totally fine with me. Now it's going through the installation. I just want to note something already. I can see that one of these bays almost looks like it's not active and not working, which is sad. It could be a faulty drive. We'll see what the system says. But it's never happened to me in the past, but it can happen, and it's good that it happens right at the beginning. So I can always just remove this. If it's a faulty drive, I send it back. Within the return range, I get a new one, and I'm going to be okay. It's always a bummer, but as I learned from one of those videos that I put in the resources, your drives are more likely to fail within the first 2 weeks of owning them, but if they stay good after 2 weeks, they're probably going to stay good for a long time. So just make sure you have good working drives at the very beginning, and you should be just fine. Great, welcome, start. So I'm simply just going to fill this information out. I'm going to choose this one that's recommended. I think it's the best option. So this is talking about creating a Synology account. I already have one, so I will sign into that. I am going to set up the Quick Connect ID. This is the thing that lets you access your Synology from anywhere at any time easily, so I really recommend it. I'm going to enable this first one and this last one. I'm going to install these later. Synology Photos is really appealing to me though. I'm also going to skip this for now, and I will want to enable two-factor authentication, but I'm going to do this later as well. So now I'm going to create a storage pool and volume. Synology makes this pretty easy for you. Alright, remember all my talk about RAID 5 and RAID 6. Well, Synology also has these hybrid RAIDs, and guess what? The hybrid RAIDs are okay if you use different size drives. I really encourage you not to use different size drives. Like I said, I just think there's more peace of mind and it's easier. And your system will be more efficient if you choose to use a RAID 5 or RAID 6 over the Synology hybrid RAIDs. It's really not a big deal, and if your only option is to use different size drives, then go with the Synology hybrid ones. The SHR is the same as RAID 5, it's going to be 1 drive fault tolerance, and the SHR2 is going to be the same as RAID 6. For this specific configuration, I'm choosing RAID 6 for mine, which means 2 of these drives can fail. Alright, next we're going to select all the drives. So as you can see, for some reason one of these bays is not showing up. Bay number 5 is just blank. So I'm going to try to reinsert that bay later and see why it's not showing up, and we'll see what the problem is. This is telling me they're not at the compatibility list, but it's okay, so I'm just going to continue. And I'm going to use the max amount of storage for this volume. BTRFS, that is what I want. And I'm not going to encrypt the volume. And we're going to press apply. All the data on the drives will be erased. Are you sure you want to continue? Yes. Great, this is my storage pool and everything's healthy. Everything's good except for missing that 5th drive. It's going to optimize in the background and take quite some time to do so. I want you to notice right here this drive size. You might be like, why is it 16 terabytes? I put in 18 terabyte drives. This is actually the same size. Basically, I think this is a terabyte instead of a terabyte. I just need you to know it's the exact same thing. You're not losing out on storage. You're completely fine. Okay, so if you remember, I installed the NVMe SSD for the cache. So I'm going to create my SSD cache. It's going to go on volume 1. I wanted it to be a read-only cache anyway. And then I have to set it up on basic because I don't have 2 drives in there, so I can't run any form of RAID on the SSDs, and that's fine with me. So, I'm going to create that, select the M.2 drive, press next, press continue, max capacity allocated, press next, apply. It will be erased just fine. And there's my cache. I'm going to schedule data scrubbing, enable data scrubbing, storage pool 1, repeat every 3 months, and I'm not going to set up a specific period right now, but I'll save that. Great, everything looks good. So if you go to the overview right here, you can see here for some reason that 5th bay isn't working. So once it's all set up, I'm probably going to power down my NAS and just reinsert it and see if it finds it. But for now, I'm just going to let it do what it's doing because I don't want to mess anything up. Alright, we're going to exit out of the storage manager. That is found right here. That is where you see and go back to it, storage manager. Exit out of that. We're going to go to the control panel, and the first thing I'm going to do is shared folder. I'm going to create my first shared folder. These are the folders that you're going to be able to access on your NAS and put all of your files into. So for me personally, I want to create 2 different folders. The first one I'm going to create is a business folder. So I'm going to enable the recycle bin, press next. I don't need to encrypt it, and I am going to enable data checksum for advanced data integrity. Next. That's fine, I don't need to do anything to the users yet. And then I created a business one. So I'm going to create another folder, and I'm going to call this one personal, and do the exact same things. Enable data checksum. Next. Apply. Great, so I have my two shared folders right now, business and personal, and I'll be able to access those on my computer. I will show you that in a second, but the next thing I'm going to do is go to user, and I'm going to create a user for myself. I didn't do this on my first NAS. You don't technically have to. That very first information you can put in at the very beginning of this, I just used that the first time, but I think there's extra security in creating another user, so I'm going to do that. Copy the password that I know I want to use in. Press next, next, and then I want to be able to read and write those business and personal folders. Next. There's no limit to the gigabytes. I want to allow myself to upload to that, and this is fine too, just to press next, next, done. Pretty simple. So, to help you understand what that looks like on my computer now, if I go to Go, Connect to Server, and under this SMB // if I type in the name of my server that I set up at the beginning and press connect, then I can sign in with my name and that password, and look, I have access to the shared folders right there, so I can enter that business one, and there's nothing in here right now but the recycle bin, which is the trash bin. So I can simply just create a new folder and call this 2024. Let's pretend we're in the new year. And then I can go in and start creating my files right on my laptop. So I'm connected right here to my NAS through my computer. It's awesome. By the way, if you need help figuring out what you actually need to put in here, you're going to go to the control panel, File Services, and it's going to tell you how to do it on Mac and PC right here. So the next thing I'm going to do is scroll all the way down to this task scheduler. I'm going to create schedule task recycle bin. I'm going to just name this empty trash. And then go to the schedule. Not the schedule, I'm going to go to task settings. Number of days to retain deleted files. I think I'm going to put in 30. You don't have to go that extreme. This is just what I want to do. So it's going to empty my recycle bins. But not until they're 30 days old. So it'll keep every file in there that's not 30 days old. Once it's 30 days old, it will empty that trash, that recycle bin. And this is currently set to daily. You can change this if you want. So, okay. Enable for all shared folders. Yes. So, I got that task running. And then over here is your package center. This is where you can install things like Snapshot, which I encourage you to go search what that is and create a schedule for yourself. I'm going to do that later, but you'll install this on, and there's really useful tools all through all of the apps that you can get. So I really encourage you to do some research into that, but Snapshots is a really, really good one. And those videos, resources that I linked for you, if you haven't watched it already, they'll take you through those types of things. So honestly, that's really all that I have to do to start using my NAS. I can start putting files on this thing and it would hold them, and I can organize it in those folders that I created. So like I said, when this is done setting up, I'll move that Ethernet cable to the 10 gigabit port and make sure my 10 gigabit speeds are working. In the conclusion of this video, I'll tell you what I figured out about this fifth bay that isn't working once this is done setting up. This is a long video, and though the process may seem daunting when it's all new to you, Synology's actually made it pretty simple, and I'm really thankful for that. I'll come back with final updates about those things, and then that's it. Alright, so it's been a few days, and the NAS is finally done optimizing everything, so it's set up and it's ready to go. You'll see that I still didn't fill my fifth bay, and that's because I tested it and that drive did fail on me, unfortunately. So I returned it, and there's a new one being sent to me right now. I tried so hard to wait to make this portion of this video when I had everything done and resolved, but I leave for the airport in 2 hours, and the drive is still on a FedEx truck waiting to be dropped off at my doorstep today. So I'm sorry to leave you on a cliffhanger, but I'm sure it will show up right before I leave, and I'll let you know that everything worked out at the end of this video. But with that being said, of course it's not a great feeling to know that one of the drives already died upon arrival. So I decided to run a S.M.A.R.T test on all the rest of the drives that I received to make sure that those were all healthy. And good news, they're all healthy. I do recommend that you also run a S.M.A.R.T test when you first receive the drives because it doesn't hurt. It does take a long time, but it's going to check all the nitty-gritty things of those drives to make sure that they're healthy. And I feel pretty confident that the rest of these drives are going to be fine, especially because they went through that test. Okay, but the final step is to make sure that you're actually getting those 10 gigabit speeds out of your NAS. So I'm going to walk you through that. It's been my goal in this video to try to make all of this as easily understandable as possible. I can tell you that a lot of the times I'm working with a NAS, it takes me a minute to wrap my brain around what I'm actually doing. I don't have any IT training and I haven't worked a lot with networking, so sometimes these things feel really confusing. So I just want to encourage you and empathize with you if you ever feel that way, but also give you the confidence to know that I called up some IT professionals and talked them through the process that I went through to make sure that I did it right. And they did tell me that I did do it right. And I've done all the tests and everything is working the way I wanted it to work. So I'm going to try to explain this in the easiest way possible. So let's walk through it together. Alright, I pulled the switch forward just so it's a little bit easier to see. So let's go over an overview of how you should be set up at this point in the video. First, you have your Wi-Fi router. And you have an Ethernet cable running out of that into the first port of the switch. Second, you have your NAS, and you have your Ethernet cable still set up in one of those original native ports that came on the NAS. And that is threaded to port number 2 on your switch. I have another Ethernet cable right here, connected into that 2.5 gigabit adapter that connects into my laptop. And then I have one more cable right here connected into the back of my Mac Mini. Which, by the way, my Mac Mini has a 10 gigabit port on the back of it. So this is a secure 10 gigabit connection because all ends are 10 gigabit. Okay, so that is how you should be set up. Now, within your control panel, you're going to go to Network, Network Interface, and then you're going to see your Ethernet cable is plugged into LAN 1. If you happen to not plug it into that first port, then maybe it will be plugged into the 2, 3, or 4th port. But this LAN 5 port right here, that is your 10 gigabit port that we installed. So what you're going to do next is you're going to unplug that Ethernet cable from the back of your NAS in that first port. And you're going to plug it into that 10 gigabit port that we installed. So go ahead and do that now. So give it a few moments to read it, but you should then see it disconnect from LAN 1 and connect to LAN 5. Now I already did this ahead of time, but yours should still say DHCP right here. I believe you can technically be fine staying on DHCP. What that means though is that your router could potentially reassign a new IP address. And if that's the case, then it can sometimes make it harder to find your Synology device on the network. So what I have done is through my router, I have reserved a specific IP address for my NAS. So my router will never assign a different device that IP address, and I know I can always find my Synology on this exact same IP address. So like I said, I have the Euro Wi-Fi mesh system, which I really enjoyed, and their specific app actually makes it really easy for me to do this. You should be able to do this on your router, but if you're unable to or you really don't know how, I don't know this for sure, but I honestly think it is okay to keep it on DHCP. Just be mindful that it's possible that your NAS could potentially switch IP addresses. So if you happen to have the Euro system as well, I'll walk you through it real quick. It is super easy on the app. You just open the app, you go to Settings, you go to Network Settings, you go to Reservations and Port Forwarding, you press Add a Reservation, you find the name of your NAS, open that up, and then you're going to change just the numbers after the last period. You're going to want to make sure that the numbers that you're reserving for this IP address don't match any of the other devices that are already connected to your network. If that happens, you'll get an error message saying that the IP address is already taken. So just make sure that the IP address isn't already taken. Alright, if you were able to, once you reserve that IP address on your router, you're going to go to this connection, you're going to press Edit, and you would have been on Get Network Configuration automatically, and you're going to go over to Use Manual Configuration. You're going to type in that IP address that you reserved, press OK, and that's it. You're connected under a specific IP address. And guess what? I think my hard drive just arrived. Thank you. The hard drive just arrived. Okay, I'll put this in right after I'm done explaining this. Alright, hopping in here real quick because I forgot to mention one thing and I don't want you to be nervous. When you sign into your web browser after setting up that static IP address, You'll probably get a warning that the site isn't secure or private. It's okay. Go ahead and visit the website anyway. And that's going to take you to the sign-in page for Synology. Your connection to the outside world is secure. You're okay. I just wanted to give you that confidence. Also, I encourage you to bookmark this page with your IP address. It's going to be the easiest way to sign in when you're on your network. When you're working from a distance, you can use that Quick Connect ID to sign in. Also, if you ever have problems finding your Synology on your network, you can always go to the Find Synology address that we went to earlier, or you can download a tool called Synology Assistant, and that will help you find your NAS. Cool. That's it. That's all you need to know to get your network up and running. If all your cables are connected directly, you should be getting those 10 gigabit speeds. So I am for sure getting those 10 gigabit speeds on my Mac Mini because I have a 10 gigabit connection into there. And to make sure that you are getting those speeds through the wired connection, be sure to turn your Wi-Fi off, and then you'll know for sure that you're getting that internet and that connection to the NAS through that wired connection. And then you do the same thing for your laptop. You plug your adapter into your laptop, turn off your Wi-Fi, and then you're getting that wired connection with the speeds that you're looking for. Now remember, this adapter turns that 10 gigabit connection into a 2.5 gigabit connection. Like I said, I did that just to save money, but you can buy a 10 gigabit speed adapter for your laptop. So if you really want those speeds, go for it. And let me tell you, I tested out that 10 gigabit speed and it was so nice. I transferred a 500 gigabyte project from my Mac Mini to the NAS to the 10 gigabit speed and it took 12 minutes. I wanted to see what it would take over Wi-Fi like I had been doing previously, so I dropped it to see what that transfer speed would be over Wi-Fi, and it originally told me it would take 3 days. 3 days, 12 minutes, I think I'm really happy with those 10 gigabit speeds. Well, okay, I gotta leave for the airport so soon, so let's get this drive in. Here it is! Okay, so the DS1821 Plus does support hot swapping, meaning I can keep my Synology on when I add a new drive in. If you want to be extra safe, then go ahead and power down your Synology and then insert the drive. But I've done my research and it's okay to do it while my Synology is still up and running. So I'm gonna do that now. Alright, I'm gonna pop it in. I can hear that drive firing up. I go into my storage manager. And there it is. It found it. It already says it's healthy, which is great. So now we need to go to the storage pool. And we need to expand this storage pool to include that final drive. So we're going to go to these 3 dots up here. We're going to press Add Drive. We're going to select that 5th drive. Press Next. This is the compatibility warning again. We press Continue. We're going to press Expand the capacity of volume 1. I do want to do that. Next. Apply. All data on the newly added drive will be erased. Of course, that's okay. It's brand new. Press OK. And there we go. Now it's initializing that new drive. So yay, I'm glad I got to show you that real time. That also shows you what you have to do if you chose not to fill up all of your bays right away. When you add those new drives, you gotta add them to the storage pool, and that's how you do it. Once this drive is added, the last thing that I'll do is run the SMART test on that drive as well, just to make sure that it's completely healthy. And there we have it, an extremely powerful, very fast Synology NAS setup. So, thanks for sticking with me, guys. I hope more than anything that this made Synology NAS is a little less scary and a little bit more accessible to you and easier to understand. This can truly be a super powerful setup and just a really great investment into your filmmaking career. So, thanks for watching. If you set up your Synology with me, I hope you enjoy it. I hope you have a wonderful day. And again, if you don't know me, I'm Jordan, and I create way more than just educational videos like this. I'm a filmmaker and I love what I do. So feel free to stick around if you just found me because you're setting up a NAS. Alright, bye guys.